That looks really good. Whoa. Oh, okay. It's like Five Nights at Freddy's. I'm shaking, guys. Smoking. It's already burnt out. Alright, you gotta do it again, boys. I kid. It's good. Hey everyone, and welcome to my garage floor. Recently I've been playing around with thermocouples, and as you can see, this one is toasted. Here was the outer casing for it. I was playing around with it and I used this propane torch to test it, and I took it above 800C and it was working fine even after taking it above that temperature. But I noticed that sometimes the readings were just a jump around sporadically. Eventually I realized that when I flicked the thermocouple, the readings would jump. Might as well open it and see what happened. And yeah, the two wires that make up the junction is severed. Okay, so the red wire is 3.1 ohms, and then this blue wire is 1.34 ohms. So, okay, that gives me reasonable assumption. If we assume that the wire is the same throughout the entire length, then these are different metals. So I think we can just cut this off and try again, even if we mess it up. I don't think this ball is actually important. It's just a junction of the two metals. But since it's already there, I'm gonna try melting it and see if I can fuse this. Okay, turning on the propane. You probably don't need that big of a flame. Okay, that wasn't hot enough. It's not attached. I'm gonna bring some tweezers. I think it'll give me a bit more control. Okay, I got some tweezers. We'll turn this back on. You can already see it's turned gray, so I don't know if oxide is an enemy here, but... Is this green screen working? Future me here. In interest of saving your time, I did spend 4 hours working on this thermocouple and 26 failed attempts, so I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the tips I learned. Tip number 1 is to do all your cleanup work before you make the weld. So the weld itself is really brittle. I'm not so sure why, but it can break really easily. So you want to minimize the amount of adjustments and movements you have to do after you make the weld. So I recommend tidying up and clipping all the fiberglass and the steel jacketing, as well as making sure it's only sticking out just enough so that it can fit inside the thermocouple, and having the bonding wires straight so that it can slide into the outer jacket of the thermocouple. Oh, and also not having the wires crossed. That caused a break in one of my attempts, as you'll see here. No! I just did this and it broke. Tip number 2, spring load. Okay. Tip number 2 is to spring load your wires so that they have some pushing force against each other. You also don't want to do too much. This is what happens when you do too much. Oh, guys, I want to give up. It's not good. So. Wait, the ball transferred. Wait, no, never mind. You just want to have a little bit. It'll help make the weld possible. Oh, I also recommend using some kind of gripping device so that you can grip onto the wire, and it gives you a little bit more control on how much spring you put on the wires. Slow and steady. Tip number 3 is to go slow while you're welding. It helps give it time to coalesce spherically, and it helps to make a stronger joint. I found that to be the case, so okay. So here are the different methods I use to heat up the joint, I used the propane, and I used a really big flame, as you can see here, and it still wasn't enough to melt the metal. So then I used the ZVS driver, and that was enough to melt the metal, but I think that's good. Let's see. I just didn't really have any success with it because I didn't get to learn all these tips yet. So I kind of moved on to acetylene, and yes, I did finally get it to work with the acetylene. I can show you right here the successful attempt. Alright, temperatures seem normal. Oh! It's like the temperature's right there and I still touch it. Alright, I think we can crimp it. I also tried different things that didn't really help that much, like I used soldering flux to try to minimize oxidation. It kind of just burnt off immediately and didn't really help. Okay, I think that's everything.